The priest who was ordained 15 or 16 years ago was Canon David Johnson, who's now Canon of the Ordinary in Mississippi, and he will be present, so that we'll be able to see him. Today we have a gospel that's about a very tough woman. And every so often you find a story about a very determined, tough woman that's different. There's a story about a woman in a farming community that really had made up her mind she was going to have her say. And so she went to this meeting of farmers where they were discussing a very important matter. And at midway through the meeting, she stood up and she had her say. And an older farmer didn't like it one bit. And he stood up and he said, "Who does this woman think she is? Why, I'd really like to ask her if she even knows how many toes a pig has." Without batting an eye, the woman says, "Well, Fred, take off your boot and count them yourself." And today, in the gospel, we have a story of a woman who's just that tough and who is very, very determined because she has to be. She has to be that determined. And so Jesus has gone off to the region of Tyre and Sidon. He's withdrawn to rest. And I'm beginning to learn in the gospel, whenever Jesus goes off to rest, keep a real close eye on what happens next. Because it's almost every time he does, something dramatic happens. When he goes off to rest, after crossing the sea, he's met by 5,000 people and he has to feed them. But he doesn't feed them until he spends the whole day teaching them. And he's gone to the far side of the lake. He's withdrawn to rest. And now he's withdrawn to Tyre and Sidon so he can have a break. And he's greeted by this Canaanite woman. And she's shouting at him, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." And that's all we know. That's all we know about the problem. But this Canaanite woman, she's not a Jew. She's a Canaanite. She's a Gentile. And Jesus answers her not a word. Not a word. And she persists. But first he says, "I was sent only to the lost children of Israel." And but she will not be deterred. She falls at his feet and begs him, "Lord, have mercy on me." And he tells her it is not right to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. Now, in American society, if you insult somebody that directly, you might get punched. You might get attacked rather severely. But the woman doesn't flinch. She responds to him with another verse of Scripture. "Yes, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." And Jesus is so moved by her response that he says to her, "Woman, great is your faith." Now, there's only one other place in the New Testament where Jesus says this to another person. It's not to Peter, it's not to James, it's not to John, it's not to any of his disciples, it's to a Roman centurion. And so he says to this woman, "Great is your faith." But with those who are closest to him, to his disciples, more often than not, he is chiding them for their lack of faith. So this is a remarkable text that we have here today. There's only one other place in the New Testament like it. And Jesus is saying it to a Gentile woman. "I was sent only to the lost children of Israel," and yet here he is remarking about the faith of a Gentile woman. So think about that. So there's something, the gospel gospel is trying to point to something really important for us. And it may be hard to figure, what is this about? What is this passage really about? And I think the only way, really, to interpret it is to look to the previous passage. And if you'll open up your pew Bibles, they're right there in the book rack in front of you. Now, you're going to look at page 16, and it's at the back. They started renumbering it when they started the New Testament. So look at page 16. As you can see, it's about 80% of the way through. Can you find that?